Of course, it hosted Golf Sixes a couple of years ago. Charles and Georgia Hall played in that.
Straight putt for Dagger for birdie to extend the lead. Oh, there was a bit of break in it. She read it well.
What a great finish she has had to this round. 3 birdies in the last 4 holes. That takes her inside the top 20 at 5 under. And of course, she's going to be part of this winning team. 80% of the $1 million prize fund, £800,000 of the prize fund goes to the team event. It'll be $50,000 to each of the winning pros.
Dagger has been the calming influence on this side. Like you said before, the only winner on the Ladies European Tour in Team Cowan, but not anymore.
Oh, that was a chance to get herself alongside Minjee Lee at 6 under par. But it's not too costly. And of course, the big picture is she's still going to be a winner. Last word for the captain, though.
Waited a long time for this, Olivia Cowan. Her first victory on the Ladies European Tour.
Fantastic. Team Cowan have taken the Aramco Team Series in London. Best of buddies, Serena Schmidt and Olivia Cowan, now joined by the amateur Andrew Kelsey, and of course Diksha Dagger, who certainly played her part in this victory as well. 41 under par, their 3-round total.
And a pleasure to watch this new format. Amateurs, professionals,
who have been working on this for a long time, all gathered here waiting as we are for this launch in just under 15
Marianne
minutes.
Skartnord's team, although of course Marianne's still got a little bit of golf to play. Team Newton and coming close. The reason why Marianne's still got some golf is because in the individual there's a playoff to come against Atia Titikul. Headed down the 18th again, Sophie.
Yes, they did. Layup for Skartnord. She had 99 yards left to this flag over those bunkers. Has to be thinking.
So, Kristen,
about
they just made the countdown a little bit longer.
Earlier.
15 minutes now.
Oh, well done. Great mentality there by the Norwegian.
I just find it fascinating that the folks in the capsule are really, at this point, passengers. They are just waiting.
They can just sit back, relax, enjoy the show.
They can relax. They're about to launch into space at 2,000 miles an hour.
Those seats are very comfortable, though, you know, and they have these iPad-like displays right in front of them. I mean, I'm sure there are nerves. How could there not be nerves when you're sitting on top of that much liquid hydrogen and oxygen? I mean, all of this so combustible. I mean, it really is. You're riding on top of a bomb into space.
We should point out, I mean, I think about the estimates are about 1% of human journeys into space have ended in disaster. So it doesn't happen, thankfully, very often, but it obviously has happened. They've taken every precaution possible. As you said, as we were talking about earlier, they've tested this capsule, its ability to separate, get away from the rocket booster itself in 3 different stages. They did one early test, I believe it was in 2012, one of the earliest tests they did, which was get the capsule separating from the rocket while it was here on the ground.
Right, on the pad. And they also did another launch escape test while it was during its ascent, and then also while it was in space. So all 3 major phases of the flight profile, they have tested the launch escape system, and it all worked perfectly, the company's saying. But I want to point out, we're still in a brief hold right now, Anderson. We don't know why, but they're strapped in. The hatch is closed. You know, you see those almost like curtain-like things right there. I want to point out to the audience, those are solar shades to prevent the capsule from getting hot. Of course, there are environmental controls, but because of those huge windows, they have to make sure that it doesn't get too hot inside. Also, that it doesn't get too humid. That those windows don't fog up, so that the view continues to take.
I assume it's climate control though in the cabin.
Yes, it is. But actually, I don't know if you saw, there was a big, almost like a pipe going through into the hatch while it was open. That's to continue to to pump cold air into there. So yes, the hatch is, now that the hatch is closed, it's controlled. There's AC in there. But when that window's open, or the hatch is open rather, here in the West Texas desert, it can get pretty hot. So they have to pump that extra cool air inside to make sure that the passengers in the systems are all comfortable and cool, Anderson. Yeah. But we're really getting down to the wire here. But as I pointed out, we're still in this hold. We don't really know why. But as I said to you earlier, these launches, or launches in general, don't tend to happen when they're scheduled to happen. This launch today, though, because they're not going to orbit, it's not an instantaneous launch window. So they have wiggle room. They can have these holds. There is, though, a deadline because of the propellant that's on board. They've already, this rocket here is fully fueled. You've got the liquid oxygen, the liquid hydrogen already in there. And because of the cold temperatures, it starts to vaporize. As you can see, some of the vaporization of the propellant happening right there. So if they're held for too long, that will sort of be the bookend to today's launch window. But there's no reason to believe that we're going to come up against that right now. But
this is powered by a single BE3 liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen rocket engine, which returns to Earth before the capsule itself will return to Earth.
Yes,
don't know how it stayed out.
Earth at just 1 to 2 miles per hour after going that fast all the way up to the edge of space. I mean, it's just incredible what that booster is able to do. But you see that steam coming out there, and you kind of hear the rocket snorting. I mean, that's why so many astronauts feel like, when you go up to that rocket, it really feels like it's a living, breathing beast that they're about to go right on.
The LET, Marianne Skartnord, they'll all want to celebrate with her.
It's an extraordinary moment for anybody who's interested in space exploration and the future of space. Adam, let me ask the question I asked to Michio earlier, which is how soon do you think, what is the time frame? I mean, if somebody who's 18 years old, like the 18-year-old Oliver Damon, who's on board right now, in his lifetime, will he see a permanent colony on the moon?
In 2 years.
I think that's absolutely. I mean, as long as things go well, I like to think of the solar system as being the prize we get for if we can deal with climate change. So assuming we can manage to deal with that very pressing issue, then I think 50 years to have permanent bases on the moon, to maybe having the first shot at a permanent base on Mars. But really, if you want to think about millions of people living in space, really having space industry, I think a century or two, which is not that long, is a reasonable time to think that you could have millions of people living all over on Mars. You could hollow out the asteroids and spin them up. We actually just wrote a paper on this and have people living on the inside of the spinning asteroids. So, you think 200 years ago was, the mid-1800s or so, and, there were trains. That was like your great-great-great-great-grandparent, not that long from now. So really, within a few generations, I think it is entirely possible that we could have, a really extensive human presence in space, if we can manage to deal with the very pressing issues that we have on Earth. Though I think they can help each other in many ways.
Felicity Johnson, Annabelle Dimmock.
I do just have to follow up. You're talking about people living inside asteroids?
And Kiriakou dominated
the Rookie of the Year race. My colleagues and I just did, where you can the idea that you can hollow out an asteroid and then spin it up, right? Because there's no, gravity is hard to come by on an asteroid. They're not that massive. But if you spin it, if you hollow it out and spin it, then the rotation actually, if you've ever been on one of those rides where, one of those vomitator rides, where you spin rapidly and you're pressed up against the wall, you could do that for an asteroid, and then you could live and walk around on the inside. So that's an idea that's been around in science fiction for a while. My favorite science fiction show, The Expanse, uses that idea quite a bit. And we just sort of worked out some of the details to show how you might be able to make that possible. And you could have cities of tens of thousands of people. There's a lot of surface area on the inside of those things. And you could end up with a really nice radiation-protected space station in that way.
Perfect. First date and all.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, we hear ideas like this, and it seems so fantastical, and yet when, the Wright brothers flew for the short amount of time that they did, no one could have imagined that, air travel would be accessible to, that the cost would be now not prohibitive.
I have a supercomputer in my pocket that gives me access to all human knowledge ever created. So, yeah, there's, 200 years is not a very long time in terms of what might be possible if we can deal with climate change and the other pressing issues here on Earth.
It's funny that you mentioned the supercomputer in your pocket, which we all have, on an iPhone or whatever the device, Android device. When you look at some of the technology used, in the Voyager spacecraft, it's being Voyager, which is still out there in interstellar space, or at least one of them is. It's using, I think, like something that's the power that's used, the same power that's used for to keep your light on in your refrigerator. It's nothing compared to it's elementary compared to the power that we all have, in our pockets right now.
Yeah, it's a testimony to human genius, which also one thing that we have to remember, we keep talking about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, but what is really happening here is a triumph of American science and engineers. And we have a huge problem in this country with science denial, and people really need to recognize that, while Bezos and Musk are paying for it and spearheading the effort, these incredible technological leaps come because of the vibrant scientific and engineering enterprise we have in the United States that needs to be supported and protected. But this is really a triumph of American science, and we should not forget that when we're watching what happens today.
And Sweden has its first men's major.
We're anticipating the launch to be at 8, which would be 2 minutes from now. Now we're being told 13 minutes to launch, so it seems to be underway. Adam, I've heard Bezos in the past talk about how he built Amazon. There was infrastructure that already existed. There was FedEx. There was the postal service. There was a payment. There was PayPal. There were payment systems to enable him to do the extraordinary business that he's created and employs 500,000 people around the world. And he was saying that for space, it's not possible for some really smart kids in a dorm room to come up with something for space right now that they can actually make happen. The costs are too prohibitive. And that's why that infrastructure for space is so important.
Yeah, and what you can imagine happening is this infrastructure will be built by, governments sort of, doing the initial capital investment to maybe get a moon base, and then private enterprise, commerce, sort of, serving as the fuel depots, providing the fuel depots and the satellite support. And this way you can bootstrap your way to the moon, and then to Mars, and then maybe even to the outer planets. So you have to have that communications, refueling, manufacturing. You need to be able to do manufacturing in space. You don't want to drag everything out of the gravity well. It's too expensive. So that is really why I don't like to think about privatization. I like to think about commerce. There's got to be jobs for people, good, well-paying jobs that people give people a reason to go into space. And that infrastructure is what is so essential. Now, in some sense, we have to remember that we paid for with taxes the infrastructure that allowed Jeff Bezos to get this far, which is all of the rocket development and the communications development that NASA did in the throughout its extraordinary tenure as the U.S. Space Agency. So there has been a lot of infrastructure investment that got us here, that was paid for by taxes. Very important to pay taxes. And so now it's the next step that these private companies can do that I think is just absolutely so essential to be able to give us the capacities to make this next essential step that Michio was talking about.
11 minutes, 10 seconds away from launch. Let's just quickly go to Poppy Harlow and Jim Sciutto. Guys?
So you have to...
Good morning, everyone. What a morning. I'm Poppy Harlow.
And I'm Jim Sciutto. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. 52 years to the day after those words were uttered by Neil Armstrong on the surface of the moon. Moments from now, we will witness a new leap for mankind. Poppy, 2 private launches to space in the span of 9 days. I mean, a remarkable new normal? I mean, it's still a pricey ticket to space, no question. But does this over time become even more normal, more accessible? I mean,
do I get another go?
Yeah, you get another go, that's for sure.
Over the Kármán line, the internationally recognized line of space, and then back down here to Earth in West Texas.
Just show us what the stroke is.
Okay, so T-0 is actually not the point of liftoff.
I would say I don't worry too much about
send the command to start the engine. It lifts off about 7 seconds later.
I don't really feel the weight in the face
for about 2.5 minutes, and then shut off. It goes through what we call MECO, main engine cutoff. About 20 seconds after that, the capsule will separate, and that's when the fasten seatbelt light on their panels will turn off, and they'll be able to float around the capsule for 3 to 4 minutes. During that time, both vehicles are still ascending. They will ascend above 100 kilometers. The Kármán line today, we're headed for about 105, 106 kilometers.
That's very true.
And then start their descent. The capsule, the booster will actually re-enter first. It's more aerodynamic. Before it hits the atmosphere, it deploys wedge fins on top to stabilize it, and then uses those aft fins to steer back over the pad. Just over the pad, about 20,000 feet above, it deploys drag brakes to slow itself down, and then restarts its engine just seconds before hitting the ground to slow itself down.
Take a detailed look at the swing of world number 3, Rory McIlroy. One of the great joys in life for me is watching Rory dispatch one of those 325-yard tee shots straight up the middle of the fairway with apparently so little effort. Many of you at home won't have his strength and flexibility, but you can still learn something from Rory's technique. Let's take a look.
Will strap back in.
Firstly, his address position is absolutely beautiful.
Get back in their seats.
Reeks of power straight away. Does like to aim a little bit up the left-hand side, even though he's going to try and draw this ball from right to left. He likes to favour an open setup, something he's found that works for him. As the club moves away, we'll see a beautifully coordinated move, left shoulder, left arm, club, all working as a unit, a one-piece takeaway, a wide takeaway. Then the wrists start to cock in the middle of the backswing. Up to the top of the swing into what is
fantastic, and we've mentioned this before on previous webcasts that the dirt down here, it's like talcum powder. It goes everywhere, and so when we have that air cushion that fires, it really kicks up the dust. But again, they're coming in at just about 1 or 2 miles an hour. It's a really nice, soft landing. And again, Gary, we confirmed we are go for launch for first human flight on New Shepard. My goodness, I mean, you've been waiting for this day for 17 years since you joined Blue Origin. What are you feeling right now, Gary?
It's still hard to believe that it's actually here. I don't know if it's set in yet, but the main thing I'm feeling is I'm thinking about the entire team, past and present, the hundreds and hundreds of people that have worked on the Shepard program and what this must mean to them.
As we continue that downswing, the hips continue to unwind, the shoulders now beginning to unwind.
The team here,
as we get to this point, you can
it's a lean and mean team, obviously, but each one of those people has contributed so much to this program. It's, again, a special shout out to all of our Blue Origin team members watching around the world. Now, for the others that are watching around the world,
let's wander over to the mat and show you how perhaps you can learn from that move.
For yourself, if you want to do what Jeff and Mark and Wally and Oliver are doing today, and you're serious about it, send us an email at astronauts@blueorigin.com. We are open. We're open for ticket sales to send you all to space. What just an incredible, incredible day. And, we're so lucky to have this particular crew on board today, and I feel like, not only do we have this beautiful story about the Bezos brothers that are going up, and Wally and Oliver, soon to be the oldest and the youngest astronauts who have ever flown into space. Oliver, that's representing our international friends out there, taking the Dutch flag to space. And then again, Wally, who has been thinking about going to space well her entire life, but certainly since the 1960s, and she was part of that program that got canceled, and she just kept fighting until recently we said, hey, Wally, why don't you join us for this first crew. And I can only imagine our future customers that are going to go on board. They're going to represent the world. They're going to represent many different backgrounds. And we certainly look forward to that. As we mentioned, we're going to have 2 more flights in 2021 for a total of 3, and again, many more to come in the future. And that is just fantastic. And I can imagine, again, as you were building the system, Gary, as you were thinking about, okay, this is not just a 1 or 2 flight, operation with New Shepard. You've built it for a long-term program.
We built it to continue.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to look at that now because we're going to get you to show us. I'd also say that before we talked about how the course is set this year, you did say I don't remember what the rules.
And just think about that, right? There have only been about 560, 570 people that have ever been over the Kármán line, over up 100 kilometers up over the internationally recognized line of space. And today we're going to add 4 more.
How about Stu go about taking yardage off, controlling the distance behind?
For sure. Yes, and someday in the near future we will be over 570
when I'm hitting a flat out 7-iron, I'm pretty much up the top of the grip with the left hand. And as I slide down the grip, I call out about a 5-yard.
Awesome.
So 170 becomes
okay,
165.
we are T-minus 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go until launch. What an incredible moment. Let's check out New Shepard on the pad here. We are awaiting, the rocket is going to go into some last-minute checks on the vehicle at T-minus 2 minutes is when the vehicle, we throw the show over to her. It's all on her. It's an autonomous vehicle. But Gary, do you want to talk to us about what are some of those last-minute checks that the vehicle is going through, and that we're going to see, especially on our screen.
Right, so as you mentioned, the last 2 minutes are auto sequence, and that is executed entirely by the vehicle itself through an automated checklist. You'll see a couple of things. There will be things that you don't see, such as sensor checks, pressure checks on the tanks,
and what's the shape that you most like to use around here?
Hundreds and hundreds of different checks will be stepped through in this checklist. But what you will see is the hydraulic systems going up,
for sure.
which will wiggle the engine gimbal as well as the aft fins. They're not only wiggling those surfaces, but they're making sure that there's no stiction and they travel
on this golf course. He's obviously been involved in some of the architecture.
Fantastic, and again, we are waiting to see that. You'll be able to see, as Gary said, you don't get to see all of those last-minute checks, but we certainly get to see the aft fins.
Off the left.
As Gary mentioned, those are the fins at the base of the vehicle. There are 4 of those.
And what I want here
obviously, they help direct the rocket up and down. And then the engine will gimbal. That is our BE3 engine, the Blue Engine 3, 110,000 pounds of thrust. Liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen are what are the propellants in the engine. It's not only a powerful and also throttleable engine. I'll talk about the throttleability just here for a second. We throttle the engine back as it comes back to land, and that's what creates a nice soft landing, because as it comes in, of course it's not filled with all the propellant that it had on the way back up. So if we throttle it back, kind of like an airplane, it comes over a nice, soft landing. And what a trip to space and back. Again, this vehicle,
Coming up after the
we've
break,
had 15 successful flights on. Again, we're
biggest
looking
names
forward
in
to the
golf.
16th one, of course, a very special one with people on board today. I just T-minus 2 minutes. There we go.
It's retracting.
The bridge is retracting.
If it wasn't for clear,
there's Oliver on the left, Jeff Bezos on the right.
It's given me control.
We are about to go to space, everybody.
Download the free app now. ClearScore.
When you look into their eyes, which
We are in auto sequence.
I see so much sadness and pain. All the things around them slowly disappear. They are forced to find their way in the world they cannot see. So many get lost.
Right now, children in some of the most remote parts of the world are losing their sight to cataracts.
Ariane, when that engine gimbal check occurs and that engine swings, they should actually be able to feel it in the cabin because it's swayed stacked back and forth.
But today, you can help a child like Kayanda get to a surgeon like Dr. Masukwa, so that they can have the straightforward operation that will save
There
their
you see the
sight.
engine gimbal check just peeking out at the base of the rocket.
It's incredible. It makes an amazing difference in their lives. It gives them the chance to thrive. We know how to treat cataracts. but so many children.
All right, here we go, everybody. Thousands of people contributed years to this historic moment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Blue Origin's first human flight. Godspeed, first crew of New Shepard. Let's light this candle.
Go online and give £2 a month to Sightsavers. Because right now, a child like Tayongo is going blind. But you can help give back his sight.
Another tea. Oh, that's my kitty. Always smiling, even though she works with dummies all day.
T-minus 10.
And this is
9,
Alex. He teaches heavy
7,
metal.
6,
Heavy
5, 4.
You know
Command
when you
engine
found
start.
the right job.
2,
now you're free
1.
to find yours. Total jobs. Big jobs for life.
We have to put it on. Shepard cleared the tower.
And New Shepard has cleared the tower on her way to space with our first human crew. Go, Jeff. Go, Mark. Go, Wally. Go, Oliver. You are going to space.
It's a bit confused. And she told me she chose me.
Like that.
We get to celebrate her life the way she always wanted. Happens to a funeral director, Nancy Sermon. Pure Cremation have their own beautiful crematorium.
Oh my goodness, listen to the roar of the BE3 engine. We are just about to pass through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. That is when the stresses on the vehicle are at their maximum.
Guaranteed.
Max Q.
Now we have peace of mind.
Max Q is confirmed.
Isn't that right, Mum? Yes.
Beautiful burn on that BE3 engine.
Join the thousands of people who
Liquid
choose
hydrogen.
cremation every month. Call to request your free guide now on 0800 170
Became the world's oldest astronaut at 82, to Oliver Damon, who became the world's youngest astronaut at 18. He joins us from the Netherlands. Again, big shout out to our viewers in the Netherlands. Congratulations. You should be very, very, very proud of your countrymen. I mean, again, and representing the next generation of people that are going to go into space. I mean, I can't wait to see what Oliver does with his future. I can only imagine. You heard him in the video. You know, he just wants to spread the love, spread the message. I can't wait to hear their impressions of the view from up there. And in fact, I hear in just a moment we hope to be getting a couple of impressions from our astronauts. We'll stand by for that there. You see the friends, the family. You see our CEO, Bob Smith, there. You see a couple of our other executives, of course, this crew safety team.
Champagne.
And it's champagne time, everybody.
It's the only proper way to end the space flight.
Exactly, only proper way to end a space flight, with a champagne shower. And man, that is, let me just tell you, that is the beginning of the celebrations. There is a lot more to come. We are, again, not just the crew and the families, but everybody at Blue Origin who has made the historic day possible. Well, there's a big hug from Jeff to Wally Funk.
Yeah, but you did it, though. You did it. The oldest person in space. You. That's so wet.
A beautiful moment there.
Thank you.
For a woman who was denied her opportunity to go to space in the 60s, she had to wait to the 2020s, but man, it was worth the wait. There you see the Bezos brothers hugging it out. Oliver Damon, you saw him earlier giving his father a big hug. What a moment. You saw the first hug when Jeff came out of the capsule to his mother, Jackie, followed by his father, Mike. I mean, again, what a day. What a day. To the thousands and thousands of members of Team Blue, you contributed to today as well. I know you were all hugging it out back in Kent, Washington, at our headquarters near Seattle, sending you guys a lot of love from down here in West Texas. What a moment.
Ella. I imagine. Oh, look at this girl. Ella.
I mean, granted, you know, Gary, we weren't in the capsule, but my favorite part was hearing, you know, the hooting and hollering and the laughing. You know, Jeff is known for his big, boisterous laugh. I mean, he's having the moment of a lifetime here, and you can only imagine as they were floating around up there, you saw them say, "Gosh, look at the views." Gary, is this as you had expected it? 17 years ago when you joined Blue Origin, you know, we like to at Blue, we like to, you know, start at the end goal, work backwards to make the design, and then build forwards. When you sat there 17 years ago with the very small team at the time at Blue, is this what you would imagine?
It's certainly what we hoped for, but with the size of the team, when I joined Blue Origin, there were only 20 of us in a warehouse, and it would have taken a huge leap of faith to think that we could have gotten to this point, but we have.
Just incredible. You know, I've been here 7 years. We were at 300, so man, you got me beat by a lot there. But you know, I can remember when I joined the team and we were talking about the moment, the day that we were going to fly people. You know, you talk about it, but it's here and it's now. And I remember we were talking about, okay, well, what will this video look like, and what will that video look like? it doesn't compare. It doesn't matter. This is real. This is so much better than anything that we could have ever imagined. The emotional component to human space flight. We've had 15 consecutive test flights, which, as you said earlier, is why we knew that we were ready to put people on board this rocket. And that's what led us to today. To know that we could do this safely, and to give people the experience of a lifetime. And I think based on what we see there, I think job well done, sir. Job well done.
And not only did we do it today, we can do it again and again and again and again.
Precisely. Absolutely love it. That was amazing. Everybody, I want to thank you all for joining us from around the world for today's Blue Origin historic first human flight. It's been a moment for the ages, and guess what? We're just getting started. We've got 2 more flights this year and several more in the coming years. I want you to join us a little bit later today. We're going to have a live press conference on our website. You're going to get to hear the firsthand impressions from our 4 astronauts that went to space and back. But to all of you out there, if you like what you saw and you are serious and interested about reserving your seat on a future rocket ride to space and back with New Shepard, we've got some exciting news for you. We are open for ticket sales. Send us an email.